I am Johnny Massacre and welcome to the world's first Matrix 4 Matrix Resurrections review. Spoilers, plot points, my opinion, reaction, all that shit. If you're wondering why I look so tired, it's because I watched this film at midnight in Tokyo on Thursday. It's coming out about 8 days before the Western release in Europe and America, which is very uncharacteristic. Usually Japan gets fisted and movies come out 2 to 3 months down the line, so I watched it at midnight in the cinema and I fucking skated home on my fucking skateboard. That's why I'm knackered. Who's fucking with me? Give me a hell yeah! So, yes, I've just seen Matrix 4. This is the first review. I have the poster to prove it at the IMAX. What do I think of this movie? Well, to be honest, that's what I think of the movie. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's pretty fucking bad. So let's get into it, shall we? So the plot, what happens in Matrix 4 Resurrections? Well, the movie starts off and it goes back to the first film with what appears to be Carrie-Anne Moss, even though it's not her, Trinity, about to get fucked up by some agents. But this time, someone is watching her. It's this kind of androgynous looking bird with blue hair, and she's with some black dude with some kind of weird augmented eye thing. And they're watching the original scene from The Matrix, and they're saying, this is a modal. This is called a modal. This is repeating loops. We're watching repeating loops going around and around and around. And then somehow that bird gets involved in the scene, and Trinity kind of notices her and says, who the fuck are you? And at that point, this discount Morpheus appears at the bottom of the building. The scene cuts to outside. And this is, I remember this is the scene from the first film. There's some kind of movie theater, neon sign and shit. And it's Morpheus, but it's a discount Morpheus. It's not the awesome Lawrence Fishburne. It's a discount Morpheus. And so eventually, discount Morpheus meets trans bird with blue hair. And shit is bad. And Morpheus says, come through this door. So they go through the fucking door. And then it's like magic. It's like fucking Lion the Witch in the wardrobe. Go in the magic cupboard and wow, you're somewhere else. And it turns out they're in Neo's fucking office or apartment from the first movie. And Morpheus appears to be an agent. So he's the exact thing he was fighting against in the first movie. He appears to be one of the agents, but he's kind of woken up or some shit. It's really confusing already. And then there's some monologue with the trans bird, and the acting is not good. The trans bird is just going da 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 da, using all this weird vocabulary and just an orgy of exposition, desperately trying to explain what the fuck's going on. Basically, there's some loop shit going on, and Morpheus is waking up from inside the Matrix, even though he's an agent and he seems to be a program. So that fucking happens in the beginning. So already I'm thinking, okay, acting's not good from this bird, blue-haired bitch, but I'll keep going with it. Then we go to Keanu Reeves. So it's good to see him again. Everyone loves Keanu Reeves. Everyone likes him. He's just very charismatic. He's in the frame. He's in the shot. And he's a video game maker. And on his desk, he's surrounded by nerdy toys of all the stuff from the first movie. So this is really meta. Now, the first movie is in this movie. It's inside it. And Neo made all the characters and shit from the first movie inside a video game. And so there's like a what are they called? Are they sentinels? Whatever, the octopus things are on his desk, and Morpheus with the katana is on his desk. But he's kind of turned into a pussy. This is a running theme in modern remakes or continuations of franchises where the characters come back and the men are kind of pussies. Like Han Solo, I don't know, mate. Luke Skywalker, bit of a pussy when he came back. And Neo's a bit of a pussy now. And his hand's always shaking and he's all fucked up. He has mental problems because of all the shit he went through. And his boss is Agent Smith, but it's a new Agent Smith. So we've got Discount Morpheus and Discount Agent Smith. And he's some award-winning video game designer. He's like the most famous video game designer in the world. But he's not happy. He's not happy. He's still not happy with all this good shit that he's done. And his boss is basically Discount Agent Smith. And I want to point out at this point, there have been agent fights already. Now, what made the original agent fight so good is because they look like just regular businessmen. They look like some middle-aged dude you see walking down the street coming out of Pret or fucking Starbucks. And that's why they're terrifying, because someone like that is not intimidating, but actually someone who should be kind of non-threatening is actually gonna fucking kill you and is the strongest thing ever. It's that kind of juxtaposition which makes them so interesting and powerful and intimidating. But in this one, they're all fucking massive. They're all ripped. All right. So Agent Smith, he's bulked up. He's on the fucking roids. And he's just not as good as Hugo Weaving. So it seems to be, I'm realizing at this point that this whole movie's plot is crafted in an attempt to explain why Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving are not in the movie, playing Morpheus and Agent Smith respectively. Like, you know, when you I don't know if you've done any creative writing, but I've done a bit, and you go through the story and you realize, shit, the story doesn't make sense. So you craft the story not to make a good story, but just to try to excuse some of the plot holes. You're desperately trying to sellotape it all together, for want of a better expression. That's kind of what this movie comes across as all the way through. So Agent Smith is there, and then this is the only good piece of dialogue in the whole film that I remember, when he's talking to the Discount Agent Smith, and they're in some high-rise building, and they're both in shot. They're sitting down, and they're having a meeting because the next game, which is going to be Matrix 4, which is this movie, very self-referential movie. It's actually the most self-referential movie of all time, more than Back to the Future 2. They're having a discussion, and then he's lighting up. He's having a fag, right? And Neo goes, I thought you gave up smoking. And he says something like, I used to think of it as a habit, but now I see it as a guilty pleasure. And he just like smokes it. I thought, okay, that was a good line. So I kind of like that bit. Anyway, so they're making Matrix 4, the video game. And then this part of the movie, I cannot believe how brazen they were with this insane concept. So imagine when they were actually brainstorming for Matrix 4, the movie. It's a load of dudes in a boardroom, a loads of PR wankers, and storyboard story writers, and the whole team's there, and they're all brainstorming with their shitty whiteboard and fucking PowerPoint slides to appease their investors. And the investors are like, okay, that looks all right. And they're brainstorming about the story, and they're going, it's spiritual, it's deep, it's a bit anime, it's a bit future, what is real, man, and Alice in Wonderland. So that actually obviously really happened in the making of this movie. And then there's a self-referential parody of that production process in the movie. But instead of actually making the movie, they're making the game. So there's a scene in a boardroom with Neo and all his staff talking about what makes Matrix 4 good. What made the original Matrix so good? Because the original Matrix, everyone in the movie has seen it, because the original Matrix movie is now a game. How's this for meta? So they're all talking about what made the original Matrix special. And it's supposed to be this kind of self-referential kind of joke. But this is just insane. This is insane. Instead of actually writing a script, you just put your board meeting into the movie. And instead of calling it the Matrix 4 movie kind of planning brainstorming session, you just call it the Matrix 4 game planning brainstorming session. So this happened. So the movie's turned into a weird quasi-comedy at this point. But part of me kind of wants to see what's going to happen, because I know the film's not good at this point, but I did not expect them to go with that shit. That's kind of brazen to do that with the Matrix 4. But anyways, that's what they're fucking doing. Neo is fucked up. He's a fucking wreck. This guy is a nervous wreck. He's absolutely all over the fucking place. And then he meets Trinity. So he's with his mate who helps develop this game. And they go to for some fucking coffee place, and then they meet Trinity, and his mate introduces Neo to Trinity, and Neo's, because he's a pussy now, he's devolved into a beta bastard. He's kind of say, don't introduce me to Trinity. Is introduced, and then again the movie tries to be some silly comedy, and suddenly Trinity's husband turns up, and he's called Chad, right? What a Chad! So that's really cringe, trying to put in a word for the kids on Instagram that they'll understand. And so Trinity's introduced into it, and they shake hands, and they kind of hold hands. They kind of recognize each other. So it's all a bit cheesy at this point. And then there's a scene. They're back in the building, and they have to evacuate. They will have to go out because tranny woman, she's pulled some alarm. So on the way out, Neo gets a message on his phone, and it's from Morpheus, and it says, "Go to the toilet. Go to the shitter. The fucking shitter, mate." So at this point, his own video game characters are fucking texting him. All right. So he goes to shitter, and Morpheus is there, and I'm not sure about his character. It's almost a bit like Black Stereotype. He's kind of like a Mac Daddy, like jive pimp. He's like, "Hey man," at walking around stuff. Okay, some really, really sick suit. But he does look pretty cool. And he's a handsome bastard, whoever is playing Discount Morpheus. And he tries to get Neo to wake up, and he just dumps this really cringy, overwritten, nonsensical monologue, like quick monologue on Keanu Reeves, and then just goes, "You want a red pill?" And you contrast that with the original film, the build up, the pacing, the dynamics, the peaks and troughs. There's a lot of silence, and then Morpheus is Lawrence Fishburne's kind of menacing kind of baritone voice. You contrast that with this scene. It's just copying the same scene from the original, and it's a different fucking world. There's no elegance, there's no panache in the script, there's no wit. It's just what? And yeah. So he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to wake up. Okay. So that all finishes. And then later that night, Neo, Keanu, John Wick is fucked on the rooftop. He's always on high-rise buildings, this bastard. For a nervous guy, he does fancy his height. So he's on top of a building, drinking straight out of the bottle. Whoa, man, rugged Keanu, getting pissed. And then he basically is going to commit suicide. So there's a running theme in this about suicides and mental health, and quite simply, his character in this tried to commit suicide some time ago, so he has a therapist, and the traumatic event before where he tried to commit suicide was where he tried to jump off a building, and he tries to jump off the building now, but blue-haired trans woman comes and saves him, and she sweet talks him in about 30 seconds, "Come and wake up from the Matrix." And then they go through a door, and then they're fucking in Tokyo. So this whole door wormhole thing, this was in Matrix 2. Matrix 2 was the most disappointing film I've ever seen in my life. Matrix 1 is one of my favourite movies of all time for obvious reasons. And Matrix 2 was just a fucking mess. Loads of exposition, loads of psychobabble, trying to sound more intelligent than it is by using really big words. George Orwell would have had a fit if he had seen that movie. George Orwell said, "Never use more words than you need to describe something. Just because you use lots of big words doesn't make it clever." But that's what Matrix 2 was. And Matrix 2, as well, had that door jumpy wormhole thing. It's back in this movie. And I love the way that they've reduced the whole of Matrix 1 to this stupid video game, instead of just leaving that shit alone and wiping over Matrix 2 and 3. If you wanted to be clever and self-referential, what you should have done is said, yeah, like we made the video game of Matrix 2 and 3, and those were bad movies. Those weren't very good movies. And then that would have been kind of funny, and you could completely erase them. But instead of that, you destroy the legacy of the first movie by reducing it to some weird device in order to justify and explain this excuse to make some money. Anyway, so they're in Tokyo, they're on a train. They go, "We're in Tokyo. I fucking live in Tokyo, and that shit ain't Tokyo. The Mount Fuji is right there. There's cherry blossom trees everywhere. It's an orgy of evidence. We're in Japan." Tokyo does not have Mount Fuji that close to it. They're on the train. Motherfuckers wearing masks on the train, but I don't think it's a fucking Corona reference. It's because they wear masks out here. Anyways, they have a fight on the train. Now, the tone of this movie, the hue, the color palette, the frame rate on the train, it's not like the original. The original had some grit to it. This is just too colorful, and the action it's like I used to mispronounce the word epilepsy when I was younger. I used to call it elepsy. And this is pure elepsy. It's like close cut, loads of quick cuts everywhere. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Tranny birds kicking everyone's ass. Fucking wicked. Okay, so they're in Tokyo, and then they go to some room, and Neo walks through a curtain, and the Matrix 1 scene with Lawrence Fishburne and the red and the blue pill is playing. Man, Can't you just make a new fucking film rather than putting the original film in this film and talking over it? This is what they did with Terminator, the recent one, which was awful. They rewrote the first film. They killed off John Connor. In this one, they've killed off Morpheus. You know why Hugo Weaving isn't in this? It's because of his contract. He was doing something else in London, and Hugo Weaving wanted to come back as Agent Smith, but they said no. So they fucking made this instead. They made a film trying to explain why Hugo Weaving and Lawrence Fishburne aren't in the film, and this is what we're getting. So we've got their footage from the first film in it, and then we've got the jarring, by comparison, discount Morpheus chatting away. So then, quite simply, Neo, they wake him up. They wake his ass up, and they say, you've been asleep for 60 years, and the machines resurrected you. Now, I'm the first person in the world to review this movie. I'm sure there's a few other nerds in Tokyo trying to do it, but I'm the first, basically, because I say so. And there's no Wikipedia. There's nothing I can look at to know what the story is. So I've got shitty memory anyways, and I have the pressure to remember this film. If you had seen this and you don't have the benefit of Wikipedia to kind of look at little plot points, you will not know what the fuck is going on either. And I'm trying to work it out, so I'll do my best. But I'm going to make... This is going to be messy. So he's been asleep for 60 years, and apparently he died at the end of the third one, but the machines brought him back to life, and there's a scene where they're drilling him back together and shit. So the Matrix completed its mission of killing him, but then they bring him back to life. So they brought him back to life, and he's been in there 60 years, and everyone else has aged in the real world. So that's why Morpheus is gone. So what the fuck is going on? I don't fucking know. So the trans bird takes him back on the ship, and they wake up. Now, before, it was all the white oppressive system, like all the characters are white. But this ship should be called HMS Diversity and Inclusion, or SS Equity and Inclusion. It's the most diverse, desperately forced diverse cast I've ever fucking seen. So the real world is basically Marxist propaganda as far as Matrix 4 goes. So that's going on, and they take him back to this new world. Now, Zion is dead. Zion is gone, and they shit on Zion. They're saying, fuck Zion. Morpheus wanted to kind of, I don't know, kill the machines or win the war, but he was just attracting too much heat, so they moved to some other fucking place. And there was something about Zion, because Zion's linked to Jews and Israel, and you know Hollywood just hates Jewish people, right? And the left have a thing against Jews. So there was some snide comment like, yeah, Zion's like always at war. And I swear to God that was a reference, like a sly reference to Palestine and Israel. Anyways, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now there's some new fucking place that looks like some shitty CGI from the Star Wars George Lucas clusterfuck prequel. So they go there, and then there's like an aged Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's fucking husband is Will Smith. She kind of looks like a man in this. Will Smith's wife is in this, Jada Pinkett, whatever her name is. She's aged and shit. They aged her with CGI. And she's pissed off that they went on this weird mission to wake up Neo, even though he's really important, because apparently they don't want to bring this heat to this world. Zion had so much heat because of all this war. You saw the battle at the end of the last movie, but now they're in some other place. They don't want to cause a clusterfuck. So old woman is pissed off with Transbird that they woke up Neo. Now, then they stick him in prison. Welcome to the real world. You're fucking going to jail. So they stick him in jail. And it's the shittest jail ever. It's got this huge ass balcony, and within 10 seconds, the trans bird, who's been reprimanded by the old hag for bringing Neo and bringing the heat, she fucking takes him in a ship and just whisks him away to go find Trinity, basically. But just before that, there's a weird scene with strawberries. They're growing strawberries now in this real world, and you don't have to eat that gruel and sloppy shit from the first movie. How did you make the fucking strawberry? It's this old kind of like intersectional woman. It's like scientist, engineer. In the real world now, we've got the pure communism. Everyone's the same, and women are like in the old communist propaganda. They're fucking holding the tools, and they're doing the shit. And this old hag has made a strawberry. How have they done it? They get... they use machines to help them. So now machines are kind of friendly and shit. There's friendly machines in Matrix 4. On the ship before, there was like a fucking... one of the horrible bug things that woke him up, but it's like a dog and shit. And Neo puts his face against it. What's going on here? And in the same manner, the machines, there are good machines that now help people basically build fucking strawberries. And Morpheus is there. And he's there, he's made up of all these particles. So Morpheus must be part of the Matrix. But now, in the same way as humans go into the Matrix, now agents in the Matrix can go into human world, and they're manifested by these tiny little nanoparticles that make them look like that shitty T-1000 successor, T-3000, 10, whatever it was, in the Terminator movie before last. So there are some good machines, and it's revealed that the machines had a fucking war. So now the machines split against each other, and there's ones with red eyes and blue eyes, man. And it's something to do with they run out of power. And I think this is why they brought Neo and Trinity back to life, because apparently for some reason, due to exposition later in the film, when they're close to each other, some crazy shit happens and sparks fly. So they rebuild them and imprison them and then put the pods next to each other, because that's going to be their main energy source. It's something like that. Yes, this plot is stupid. It's so fucking... The first plot is so good. Everything's a simulation. In the future, machines wipe out mankind, but they need power, so they enslave them. And then they plug them into the system, and then you can wake up and fuck them up. And there's agents, and it's cool. That's it. It's awesome. This film, fucking strawberries, nanoparticles, and HMS, equity and inclusion. So they go back to find Trinity. And there's more exposition about how then there's something to do with his therapist. So Neo has a therapist, and basically this is the bad guy. So on the way back to, I think, find Trinity, they encounter Agent Smith. And Agent Smith, before, when there was loads of shit happening in Neo's office and there was guns and shit, he kind of like picked up a gun, and it was as if he didn't even know he had it in him. So I'm trying to work out what the fuck is going on at this point. It seems to be that in this movie, the Matrix, the machines rewrite the history of the Matrix. So it was all a video game that's now being made by Neo. So it's really meta. So the first movie is actually now inside the Matrix of a video game created by Neo, and Neo, who created that video game, is inside another Matrix, and that other Matrix has condensed that first Matrix into a video game being made by Neo. And they can do that, right? Because the original Matrix, the whole history of it is in the Matrix, so they can just rewrite what happened. So now it's a video game, and it seems to be, and I don't know why they would give him these powers, but it's so convoluted. It seems to be that the stuff Neo codes into the game becomes real life. So he's coding these loops into the game, and that's making loops happen in the Matrix. And I think that's why Morpheus exists, because he's tried to code Morpheus into the game. And Agent Smith in the game is based on his boss, this discount Agent Smith. So Neo is interacting with these things and putting it into the game. So it's almost like an infinite feedback loop, the chicken or the egg. What was first? Was Agent Smith real first? And then the Matrix made the Matrix into a video game? And then Neo made Agent Smith based on his boss? Or did Neo create the whole Matrix just based off his boss? It's like trying to comprehend infinity, but it seems to be that Neo is, the stuff he's coding, which is based on what's around him in the Matrix, is kind of coming true. So I think that's why Morpheus is alive. I think that's why, how they try to excuse people looking different. So Trinity at the beginning looks different because Neo's just trying to create something, and he's making loops, which is known as modals in the movie. So he's making loops, and I guess every loop, the character's going to look a little bit different. So this particular loop, Morpheus looks like this, even though Morpheus is dead in the real world and there's a fucking statue of him and they kind of hate him. And Carrie-Anne Moss looks a little bit different because it's just another loop. I don't know. And I don't even fucking know. It's so confusing. But Neo's making video games, and that shit is coming true. So on the way back to find Trinity, they encounter this Agent Smith, and then they have a battle. And they have a battle. On the way to find Trinity, they find discount Agent Smith. They have a fight. Then some weird old kind of Lord of the Rings haggled old man comes along and is like, yeah, I'm going to watch this fight. Oh, who the fuck was that guy? I think he was in Matrix 2 or something, and now he's turned into a fucking hobo because he's gone bankrupt due to his small business being ruined by government overreach. stemming from coronavirus restrictions. Anyways, that goes on, and then Neo finds his power again, and he says, I still know Kung Fu, really cheesy, and he kind of beats Agent Smith, and Smith fucks off. And I want to add, before this, when Neo woke up back into the Matrix, the way they did this was he was dying, and then he was in that kind of white room halfway between the Matrix and the real world with Morpheus, and then Morpheus kind of realized he's going to die, and to make him wake up, he transports Neo to some weird temple in the middle of nowhere, and they have a massive kung fu fight. So basically Morpheus beats the shit out of Neo when he's dying in order to revive him. Anyways, that awoke Neo's powers again, and then he used those powers to defeat Agent Smith. And then then he goes back into the fucking Matrix, and they don't use phones anymore to go in and out. I don't even know how they're fucking going in and out. So he meets Trinity, he goes to find her, and his psychiatrist, who wore blue glasses the whole time, wow, so symbolic, he must eat the blue pills and shit. The psychiatrist turns up, and it turns out the psychiatrist is the new bad guy. So there's Discount Agent Smith, and there is the evil psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist's name, I think, is the Analyst. And I think this guy is basically the architect from the end of the second movie that was trying to broker peace between humans and machines. So he represents the kind of one faction of the machines, and the Discount Agent Smith represents the other faction. And the Analyst is here, and he's the main bad guy, and his acting's pretty good. I quite like him. He uses bullet time, and he says, you created bullet time in the Matrix video game, so now I can use it against you. So that proves that the stuff that Neo, I think his name's Thomas Anderson, is his original name in the movie, the stuff that Neo is coding in the game comes to life, and so the Analyst, the new bad guy, can use bullet time. So he slows everything down, and he's walking around as normal. But they don't even do the proper bullet time. The original movie looks better than this when they do bullet time. There's hardly any of that in this film. And the guy explains what I told you earlier about how they need Neo and Trinity to be close together. And I think the Analyst is the one that brought him back to life and put them close together in the fucking pods and shit in the real world. And so he shoots a bullet at Trinity, and Neo's trying to go to stop it. It's really slow, but the Analyst is walking around and shit, and the Analyst eventually stops the bullet. And yeah, then they go back to that shitty homeworld, and they make a plan to get Trinity out, to wake her up. Now shit gets hyper confusing. So they get some like manta ray, this big robot manta ray thing. It looks like a fucking robot Avatar thing. They've nicked a creature from Avatar, and they fucking turn it into a robot. And this reminds me of Star Wars. Do you remember the Star Wars Force Awakens, which was fucking awful? Just before the climax of the scene, they all sit around, and because the script hasn't built this up properly, they just have to tell you in about 2 minutes how we're going to end the movie. That's what they do. So you're going to go here, and then you're going to go there, and Discount Morpheus is going to turn into nanoparticles and go down the fucking umbilical tube that was going into Neo's pod, and we're just going to, because Trinity's next up, we're going to fucking get Trinity. And then there's a really cheesy line from one of the characters who says, you know, we have to go all the way through all these crazy machines and millions of deathbots and climb that tower just at phase 1. How are we going to do that? So they all fuck off to get Trinity. Cut a long story short, they get her, and I don't understand how they fucking even wake her up, because she doesn't have to go through a mirror or anything like you're supposed to in the Matrix to kind of wake up. But they get Trinity out in the end, and Neo and Trinity meet each other, and they're pissing around on like a motorcycle, like trying to get away from all these agents and stuff. And there's this big showdown between Trinity, Neo, the Analyst, and Discount Agent Smith. They all have a fight in this bar. That's probably the best part, special effects wise. They have a big battle, and then Trinity and Neo are running away on a motorbike, and this has all been in a dream before. Trinity said, I've seen this in a dream. It's a dull film. And then there's this weird bit which is where it's called swarm mode, which you've seen. I don't know why they call it swarm mode, because it was in the other movies and it wasn't called that, but it means loads of random people suddenly become agents. And in this film, the agents don't wear a suit and tie. They wear skins. They're called bots, and they look like regular people. Some of them are like that. I think that's the analyst's agents as opposed to the discount agent Smith's agents. You see how stupid this film is? What am I even talking about? I don't even know. That's how bad and convoluted the script is. And a swarm of these kind of bot-skinned agents start jumping out of buildings and dive bombing them, trying to bomb them. It's really weird. And they end up on top of a building, of course, because every fucking Hollywood sci-fi film ends up on top of a building. And then they jump off the building. So finally they jump off to get away. There's a chopper chasing them. And they're falling, and then Trinity now is like Superwoman. So before it was Neo who could fly, but this time Trinity's flying, and Neo said, this is not me who's flying, Trinity's flying. Trinity's fucking Superwoman, just kicks everyone's ass, and they fuck off, and they fly away, and she saves Neo's ass, and they wake up. And that's pretty much it. There was no really sick ending battle between the opposing forces. And then what they do is they briefly go back into the Matrix, and they go to meet the analyst, who basically he brought them back to life. So I don't know why they're so pissed off, but they go to meet this is weird. Are they even alive? Because they were brought back to life. Are they synthetic? Are they human? Who knows? They go to meet the analyst who caused all this shit, and Trinity smashes him in the face and punches his jaw off, and then he somehow gets it back. And they talk a load of shit to the analyst, and I think they say some weird like dystopian shit, like we're going to remake the world. And the guy says, yeah, go ahead, because they're all powerful now. Trinity's and Neo are all powerful again, and this guy's just some submissive cuck now. And he says, what, you're going to make it all with rainbows and shit? And she says, yeah, rainbows would be pretty nice. So this is some communist shit. Man is, going to become your god. So you're going to worship man, the religion of the government of Neo and Trinity. And you're going to remold society in your image. It's real leftist, the Hollywood commie shit. And there were other echoes of that previously in the film. When they talked about the original Matrix, when they were brainstorming in the boardroom, they said, yeah, it's like a take on the excesses of capitalism. So yeah, capitalism is like so bad, man, and let's just like tear it all down and make this utopia. Workers of the world unite. So that was the ending. They instilled communism in the real world, and I can't wait for the sequel. So there you go. That was the plot of The Matrix 4. What the hell was that? The first film was so groundbreaking and so stylish and so cool. Now I see why that works so well, because the characters, the casting was great. Lawrence Fishburne, Hugo Weaving, Carrie-Anne Moss, Keanu Reeves, they were so good. Without Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving, it's less than half the film. And Wachowski has lost his mojo. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't have the feel, doesn't have the grittiness. Just insipid. Just a typical Hollywood rehash, a continuation of an old franchise. It seems to be like every movie is like this nowadays. And honestly, I think this might be the last film I ever see in the cinema, because I haven't seen a good film now, a really, really sick film for so many years. Now it's just insipid Disney dog shit, Marvel movie after Marvel movie after Marvel movie, woke trash, remakes, continuations of old franchises. I'm just tired of it, and this is pretty much exactly what I expected. The first trailer, I thought it looked interesting. The second trailer, I could see it was going to be bad, and I was proved right when I watched it. This is probably the last film I'm ever going to see in the cinema. Matrix 4, you killed my love for going to the cinema. So there you go. I'm sure Matrix fanboys who think worshipping and being part of a Matrix cult is a substitute for personality are going to be mad. But hey, all I can do is tell the truth. Matrix 4 out of 10. I mean, it can't be more than 2. I would never watch that again. There was nothing was enjoyable there apart from that fight scene at the end that was okay. Carrie Ann Moss's acting was great. When she was talking, I don't know whether she had better lines or she's just a good actress in comparison to the trans bird, but I could understand everything she was saying and it was compelling and I was listening to her. All the other characters were not good. Keanu Reeves, when he first meets Discount Morpheus in the shitter, it's some of the worst acting I've ever seen from him, and that's saying something. So yeah, there's not many redeeming features of this film at all, and at least you have some sick action, but this film didn't have it. Pretty much no bullet time, just a shit ton of exposition, a load of monologues, like desperately trying to explain the film, with an insane plot that the first film was a video game that's now being coded by the protagonist of the first film. And everything he makes in this game is coming true in his world. And the machines resurrected him and did that because, according to the movie, they're almost mocking them, like, your life is so pathetic, it's like a video game. And outside of that, it's very meta. Neo and Trinity are next to each other because when they're close, it can kind of power the whole Matrix. But still, we need shitloads of other humans as well to supplement these two super batteries. The film comes across like a self-indulgent, narcissistic retelling of someone's mental problems. It seems like the director is just trying to tell their own story, their own mental history in a film. There's so much talk about drugs and mental health and suicide and stuff. I just wish the director or producers or whoever was involved in this would have got some counseling before they made the movie. I found it very nihilistic and music as well. Yeah, just completely forgettable. I could go on and on, but I just can't believe what I've watched. What the hell was that? The second film was awful. The third film was a bit better, I thought, but still, after the first one, it was done. It was cooked, and yet they've done a fourth one because Keanu Reeves is very viral and he's got a lot of buzz about him. So it is what it is. It's another Hollywood remake. They shouldn't have done it. It's a 2 out of 10 for me, and that is that. If you like the video, please make sure to subscribe to my main channel, which is youtube.com/Johnny Massacre. I'm on a 2-week ban at the moment, but I'll be back very soon. I have been Johnny Massacre, and I tell you what, mate, you better be back for the next video. Otherwise, I'll be coming around your house. Please make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell because that is what all those other cunts tell you to do. Laters.